What's up, marketers? Today's video is going to be all about how to source UGC creators for your brand or business. Now, this can be for organic content or content for paid ads, which is actually what I do at Thesis. This video is going to break down, number one, all the options you have in sourcing user-generated content, two, which ones to double down on if you have limited resources, time, or want the best quality content possible, three, my hot takes on all of them, four, exactly how we source for content creators at Thesis, and number five, all the things that you need to source creators on your own. So first things first, I'm going to go through all the different options that you guys have when sourcing creators for your brand. And the first one is that you can sign up for a marketplace. These are going to be things like Billo, Trend.io, BeeRoll, and hashtagPaid. And essentially what this is it's a marketplace where you can actually connect with several different creators. Oftentimes the way that these platforms work is you're going to launch a small campaign detailing the client and the product and the type of content that you want the creators to make. And creators will bid on it and submit an application on why they're the best creator for the job, which in theory sounds great, right? So the pros to using these type of platforms is obviously you don't have to source all those creators yourself. And oftentimes these creators and content comes at a pretty good price point. I've seen anywhere from $50 at the low end all the way up to $250 for more established creators on these platforms. Ultimately, trying out these types of marketplaces are really great options if you have limited resources, you don't have enough time to source out the content creators on your own, and if you just want to test it out. My word of caution is to be incredibly selective with these platforms. A lot of times I find that the creator quality is not nearly as high, and when I'm scaling up creative for a client, I often need to look for sources outside of these marketplaces. Frankly, there just tends to be a much younger demographic on these marketplaces, so if I have something that's 45, 55 plus, I definitely need to look outside of these platforms generally. Now, at Thesis, we actually do sometimes use BeeRoll and hashtagPaid. And what I really like about BeeRoll particularly is it gives you a lot of control over the type of content that you're asking for. So you're going to be filling out a storyboard that the content creator actually has to execute for you. Instead of just having them shoot like one video, you can actually have them create modular content, which is what we really like to do at Thesis, because then we can then edit that on our side. And there's a few creators at BeeRoll that we use again and again because the quality is so high. Now, hashtagPaid is really great if you want a really big creator or influencer and you're really interested in exploring whitelisting, but it does come at a bigger cost. Ultimately, there's good quality here, but it's going to come at a price. My hot take on all these platforms is in the past, Billo really didn't work for me, so we really don't use it at Thesis that often, if ever. If you use Billo and you really like it, please let me know in the comments. I'm really curious about how these platforms are performing for other brands and agencies. Trend.io, I personally have not used in the last few years, but when I did use it a few years ago, I actually found that when the brand or business was owning that relationship, they tend to get much better results and they ended up taking that relationship off platform. It was a much cheaper way essentially to dip into influencer and whitelisting. So that's always an option. And like I said, we do use BeeRoll and hashtagPaid. And while my preference is a little bit more for BeeRoll because the price isn't as high as hashtagPaid, it does take a little bit more of a time investment. And that's because you have to fill out the storyboard yourself. And oftentimes you're going to be detailing anywhere from like 10 to 20 shots that you want the creator to execute on, as well as writing out the script that you want them to use as well. And again, a lot of the creators aren't actually going to be editing those videos on BeeRoll, but since we have a video editing team, that's not a big problem for us at Thesis, but it could be an issue for smaller brands that don't have video editors. Now, the second option that you have is you can source these people yourself, which means that you can literally get on Instagram, on TikTok, and find creators who are already developing content for that platform organically. Now, as Savannah mentioned recently on one of our podcasts, this is actually how she built up her creator network. And frankly, this is a lot of what I'm doing now at Thesis. Additionally, Twitter also has a really big UGC creator population, and I even have a UGC creator list that you can take a look at right here. I think there's over like 75 creators on that list now. Now, my hot take on this method is that it takes a lot of time, and depending on the creator has a really wide range of prices, anywhere from $150 all the way up to like $3,000 for a few videos. Frankly, I found better creators when looking for the specific platform that I want to develop the content for. So if I want to create TikTok ads, I'm going to TikTok to find those creators. If I want to create UGC for Facebook ads, I'm going to Instagram to find those creators. Twitter, it's a super mixed bag, to be honest. Some of the creators here are super new, so my word of advice here is to give them a really great brief. Make sure you know exactly the type of content that you want and go after people that other brands are also recommending. I will say one of the perks to using a lot of these Twitter people is that they often do a lot of their own video editing. So if you're a brand that doesn't have those resources, this is probably a good way to balance time and resources and cash flow, frankly. Now, number 3 is one that I have not heard many other people talk about, which is to tap into actor networks. Now, this is a unique one that we've tested out a lot at Thesis, partially due to the fact that we have a studio in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, where we often have to have talent on set to create and develop some of the content that we're making for our clients. But to be honest, we've also sourced a lot of awesome UGC talent from here as well. And oftentimes this content tends to perform pretty well. Now, the big pros here are that actors are really well versed in being on camera, emitting a wide range of emotions, and frankly, they just know how to have a better presence when being filmed. This is also another really great route to take if you're trying to tap into other demographics. Oftentimes when I'm working with clients that need to source UGC content for demographics that are 55 and above, for instance, I'm often directly going to sourcing out of some of our actor pools. Now, how exactly do you tap into actor networks, right? Frankly, a majority of the time, we are using Backstage, which is again where you can post the brief of the type of content you want them to make and then select the type of people that you want to work with. I've also experimented a little bit with tapping into Facebook groups. So this would be like New York City actor groups or LA actor groups. But I've actually found that when trying to source from LA and New York, the quality just wasn't high and I feel like I was in the wrong groups. So I actually think that if you are tapping into slightly smaller cities for this, that could be a really great way to go about this. But to be honest, I just haven't really validated that theory so much myself. So if any of you guys want to try that out and let me know how it goes, that would be awesome. I'd say some of the cons with going this route, especially if you're going to be using Backstage, is a lot of times there are the same people who will literally click audition for every single post. So you'll often see the same people popping up again and again. With that said, I'm often very surprised at how many people are TikTokers that are on this platform too. And I've often found that I'm able to really balance price for quality here. So it's not uncommon for me to say, hey, we want this type of content for $300, $200. And a lot of people are going to be applying for that. And it's a totally fair price for them because it's really only going to take up anywhere from 2 to 3 hours of their day, which for budding actors is not really a bad deal. So if you haven't gathered by now, at Thesis, we use a combination really of all of these methods. We use BeeRoll for some of our smaller clients that are just getting onboarded. We use hashtagPaid when we really want to tap into larger creators and really hone in on high fidelity style whitelisting. And for more rapidly scaling clients, we're also going to be using our own creator networks and tapping into actor networks. I'd say really my biggest word of advice and something that I'm really practicing right now in my role at Thesis is I'm really trying to develop a network of top creators that we can use again and again. Because what I've found is really oftentimes when we are working with content creators for the first time, the content isn't going to be as good, but as we develop a better relationship with them and they understand the style of content that we're trying to go after, and they also start becoming more familiar with our clients, that's when we start to get really the best performing content. So regardless of what type of platform or method you're going to use to your UGC sourcing, I'd highly recommend that your end goal be to find people that you can develop relationships with. Now, a really quick overview of what our UGC process looks like from a bird's eye view. Number one, the growth manager or the creative director is going to submit a request to my team, the creator division team, to outline exactly what type of content and creators they want to source. The creator division is then going to review that brief and then make the initial creator selects. The creator division and the creative director will then collaborate on those selects and then make the final selections. Then we will create and send the brief to the selected talent. Then we'll get the content, we're gonna edit the content, and then send it over to the client for the final review. And really, once we get approval, sometimes we go through edits, we're gonna be launching that content almost same day in most cases. And once that content has been launched and scaled up in accounts, we're always gonna be taking learnings and doing retros on every single piece of UGC creator work. Now, these are the things that you need to make sure that you have on hand when sourcing creators. Number one, you need to have a method to source. So I gave you 3 methods methods that we use. You can literally just choose any one of those, or also try out a combination like we do. Next up, you're gonna need a brief, AKA exactly what type of content you want your creators to make. Hell, even an example will go a long way. Savannah and I actually have a podcast that did a deep dive on exactly how we are briefing our creators, so definitely take a look at that. You're also gonna need a contract of some kind. It's really easy to Google these type of creator type contracts and adapt to your own. What's kind of cool though when you're using those marketplaces is generally those agreements are already baked in, so that is another consideration. Next up, you're gonna need a tracker of some sorts. So we use Asana. Candidly, I do not love it, but we also track payments through a simple Google Sheet. It's really not complicated over here. And finally, you need to have a standard operating procedure for how you're actually analyzing the content that's coming out of your creators. And that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is honestly something that I wish that I could have had when I first started sourcing creators. It is really a bit of a black box. And I actually know that a lot of creators too watch this channel. I'd love to hear from you guys. Be sure to leave a comment if you're open to work with some of the brands. I know a lot of brands and business owners also watch my channel. And that's it. Thank you so much, guys. See you next week. Bye.